Hey, what up, everybody? Stevie Breach coming to you. Last night I touched on in my video about Monday Night Raw. I touched on just basically the whole Jim Ross firing and how it makes no sense. And then, as the news came out today from listening to the Observer and stuff like that about how it wasn't even really in the script for Laurinaitis to fire Jim Ross, and how Jim Ross didn't know what was going to happen, and the announcers didn't know how to react because it was just something off the cuff that didn't make sense in the long run. Um, I'm guessing it's just a way to get John Laurinaitis over as a heel more because in the WWE these days it makes more sense to get the non-wrestling people over more as heels like Michael Cole and John Laurinaitis and Vicky Guerrero than anything else. Jim Ross to me is the voice of wrestling. He's I was too young to really um, take advantage of Gordon Soley. I did hear him call some WCW matches back in the day when I would wake up early and check those out. But really, by the time I really started paying attention to the color commentators and the announcers and everything, Soley had already gone, and Jim Ross came in. And honestly, when Jim Ross first came over to WWF back in the day at WrestleMania, when he made his debut in the toga, and even as he worked his way onto the Raw brand, I didn't really think of him as being that big of a deal. He just was another announcer to me. But when Jim Ross finally came into his own was probably WrestleMania 17, WrestleMania 18 when he finally found his voice in the WWE. He stopped using the fake voice that you can hear in his earlier matches when he was trying to it was a way when you break it down you can sort of hear him trying to take his southern accent out of the way from the way that um, Don and McMahon treated, just tried, they didn't want the Southern hick out there. They didn't want him to be himself. But when you break it down, he is the voice of wrestling. He is the best there is. And the reason why I think Michael Cole became the Michael Cole that we know today is because they tried to make him Jim Ross. And they couldn't, so they needed to take it in another direction. It doesn't make sense. To me, Michael Cole is the head play-by-play man that wants to be a color commentator. It's to me, I thought that was the reason why they brought back JR was to be the color, to be the play off of Michael Cole, so he could be the color commentator that they wanted him to be instead of being announcer. They were trying to make him more of a the on-screen character of Michael Cole. But Jim Ross has put up with the pranks and just being kicked around by Vince McMahon and done in the back, just everything they've ever done to him. Just with the one thing that really stuck out is when they drafted him over to SmackDown. He didn't know it was coming. He was the number one guy in WWE. He'd been there forever, and he didn't know he was going to get drafted. He didn't even know he was getting demoted. Being moved from Monday Night Raw to SmackDown is a demotion. Um, Basically he was the voice of the WB, and they were giving Michael Cole that step up to be the head voice of WB, being on the head show Monday Night Raw. If you're gonna demote somebody or move them from one show to another show, I mean it's more than that's like going to John Cena and not telling him he's moving over there. He's the head announcer. He's what everybody's been used to so much. But when it comes down to it, he's not the head of relations like he used to be. He was removed from that job. I don't even remember what year that was, but that was a long time ago. He is basically just another one of the boys, sort of like when Eric Bischoff was in the WWE. He was just he doesn't have any stroke. He doesn't get to throw his 2 cents in there. If he does, they listen to it. They don't listen to it. It doesn't really matter. It's just he's just one of the guys. But still, for what he was and what he is to WWE and what he adds to matches, when you listen to the old Stone Cold and Rocks, and just like when they had the Hell in the Cell, and they were busted in the door and he was like, get in there, get in there. He just knows when to turn JR from 10 to 11. And it's just that one extra notch is what really sells it, and it really makes you take a bite into there. And just for everything that he's had to put up with, like I said, the not being told he's going to get drafted, and right here he was fired on Monday Night Raw in front of his wife and everybody, in front of his hometown, his own crowd, for basically just to get John Laurinaitis over as a heel, which basically he already was. Everybody hates this guy, and now they just hate him a little bit more. It didn't need to happen, and it doesn't matter. And then when they finally do bring JR back, because they've fired him and brought him back, fired him and brought him back so many times, it it just doesn't matter in the long run. It just no one's gonna care. And he's had to do the Kiss My Ass Club, and then Basically, when he was getting the cancer surgery, Dr. McMahon operated on his ass and pulled his own head out of there. Just that didn't make any money. Nobody wanted to tune in next week because they saw McMahon pull JR's head out of his ass, and it's just dumb how much JR gets kicked around by this company because he loves it. He loves wrestling. I wish that he would have took the offer, or at least talked more with Ring of Honor. Like Lagana said on his podcast that there was discussions between Jim Ross joining Ring of Honor to do the pay-per-views and do the television. There was at least discussions. They didn't get where they wanted to get to. It never really happened, and he went back to WWE. But because he deserves better than WWE right now. I mean, the Brett and Sean DVD is coming out, and he's the voice on there that does the whole interview process and everything like that. And they probably would do Michael Cole on there, but I don't think anybody's ever going to take Michael Cole seriously. If you get like the last one, I believe it's the My Journey DVD with Shawn Michaels. They do the interview and they talk about each match, and Cole asks them questions. Cole used to be able to be believable that when Cole was on SmackDown with Taz, he was coming up in the ranks and people actually liked him. When he got moved over to Monday Night Raw, it made sense. It sucked that JR wasn't going to be the man anymore, but Cole had developed into something that was good and it was good for business. What Cole does now is basically just degrade talent. He's a heel. Um, it could work if you had a face announcer, but I don't think that the face color commentator of Jerry Lawler works for me. I grew up with him being a heel my whole life, and I always loved it when he would always throw little jabs in there about how he wanted to join the corporation and how what Vince was doing was always right, and he was sort of saying that keep his job, this, that, and the other. But it's just a shame everything they've ever done to Jr. I've always loved him. He always will be the voice of wrestling to me, and I don't know. We'll probably see JR again. I mean, there's no way in the world. I know he's got some sort of job where he does scouting for FCW, this, that, and the other. He has a great mind for wrestling. He has a great voice for wrestling. But I just wish he got better. I just think that the Ring of Honor deal might have been better for him.